Hello friends, followers and fellow flight simmers. Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator. I have been trying to record this video since last Saturday when this aircraft came out and wasn't successful due to, personal life, I guess, always gets in the way and takes the priority. But today we will be looking at the recently released Boeing 247D, released by or developed by Wing42, which is an interesting aircraft and has a lot to offer. And we will be discussing and looking into this aircraft and maybe starting the engines and take it from there. We will probably not do a flight today due to how much detail I need to cover regarding this aircraft. This will be a long review video and we'll take our time to take a look at things, and I'll try to point out the interesting things that I discovered during my review of this aircraft. I think it's fair to say that Wing42 and their head developer Otmar put a lot of heart and soul in this aircraft, and it is amazing to see how much development went into this aircraft, and the attention to detail, or the level of attention to detail that went into this aircraft is insane, in my personal opinion. There are a lot of things that's custom coded and working, and I think it's fair to say that this is the first aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator that has a lot of system simulation and a lot of custom functions that you can enjoy during your flights, even if it's a vintage airliner and doesn't have the electronic systems like the modern airliners. There are a lot of things to appreciate, and what the development team put into this aircraft. We will just do the exterior 3D model, textures and whatnot, and take a look at the cockpit and cabin, and then we will make our way into the pilot seat and take a look at what's simulated and what this aircraft has to offer, and I think you will find this interesting. So I'm pretty sure you have seen other videos. If you're interested in this aircraft, there has been many videos recorded about this by other content creators. But I'd like to hear your opinion too, so let me know in the comments what you think about this aircraft. And the other thing I want to mention is this aircraft comes at a $20 price tag, which is extraordinary for Microsoft Flight Simulator add-ons, especially the ones that has this level of simulation and attention to detail. This is a new strategy that Wing42 is, I think, trying because of the huge user base of Microsoft Flight Simulator. They are hoping to sell more copies at a more reasonable price. And in my personal opinion, I think the other add-on developers for Flight Sim has a lot to learn from Wing42. Not only their pricing strategy, but also what is possible with the current status of the SDK, and what can be custom coded and how things can be brought to life if you are willing to do it. Anyway, I think this is enough opening talk. We will start, as I said, with the exterior model. As you see in the background, the engine cowlings are removed. We have baggage carts, we have stairs, the doors and the pilot window is open, cargo compartments are open, and we'll take a look at pretty much everything from 3D model and how the model looks, and the other things that I will point out, such as simulated de-icing booths and all that jazz. Alright, I'll try to control the drone camera as professionally as I possibly can, but at times it's challenging if you don't have a Xbox controller to move the camera and if you are using just your keyboard, which I am today. Let's start with the right wing and start talking about the exterior model and texturing of this aircraft. In my opinion, all the textures are done beautifully. Very high attention to detail, and all the details of the wings, fuselage, doors are done nicely and to a high standard, I would say. You can clearly see all the rivets, all the seams, all the joints. This weathered look clearly tells that she is an old lady. Look at this wing, it's huge, and this aircraft does not have any flaps due to the huge wing area and the lift generated by this wing. As I walk through, you see how clear and crisp the textures are, how nicely the texturing is done, and you literally see each and every detail, even on the smallest piece of hardware on the wings. I would probably complain about the wheel texturing a little bit and the hubcap. It doesn't feel like it is on par with the rest of the aircraft, but I'm pretty sure that's something the developer will address in the future. But as we move and make our way to the undercarriage, you see how the rivets are looking, how the textures are. This is a little bit pixelated, but at this distance and zoom level, I think it's acceptable. Nothing to complain there. But look at the landing gear housing and the carriage, the links, the hydraulic lines, the brake lines. Everything is done to a high standard. Even the leather has very nice textures, even if you see it just on the ground. This shows that how much attention to detail went into the development of this aircraft by Wing42. The engine, the radial engine, look at that detail. Like, this is the first aircraft that I saw that has this much detail on the engine itself. Even if you don't see it when the engine cowlings are placed on, you still get to enjoy the attention to detail and how nicely modeled the cylinders, the prop, everything. The spark plug cables and the fuel lines and everything about this engine is nicely done, and it's just pleasing to look at. Even the prop, look at that. It shows its age. The paint effects and paint chips and weathering is done very nicely. You can tell that she has seen some days. That is the right wing and the engine. Fuselage, again, very high attention to detail, very nicely done textures and 3D modeling here. Even the cargo compartment, if you look at here, you see the engine crank. Nice detail, nice little touch here, but you know, it's nice to see that this much attention to detail was used when developing this aircraft. Going into the cargo compartment, the fishnet or cargo net here, I'm not sure if this is the fire extinguisher bottle that goes into the cockpit to put out the fire, or maybe something else. I'm not sure what this is, but these are the parts that you don't usually see during flight, but still the developer didn't hesitate to model these sections of the aircraft. Same deal with the left wing, nicely done engine model. You see all the internals in high detail, and it's amazing to see this much detail for a model, or for the part of the model that you don't see when you are flying. All the vents over here where the engine meets the wing, all the rivets, windows, nice details of, various doors. I think this is the fuel door for the fuel tank on the left and left wing. The windows, it's amazing. Tail, horizontal stabilizer and rudder, and the elevators are done nicely too. It is quite pleasing to look at, and I can probably spend a lot of time looking into all these details and going through those if I want to make this video 3 times longer. Baggage cart representing the 1930s and how these aircraft operations or airport operations are done. It is nice to see these little touches. Cargo compartment, again, the back cargo compartment is fully modeled. You get to see every detail when you go inside, even if you don't see this during flight. Oops, wrong button. I think overall this is a beautiful 3D model of the aircraft. Very nice textures, very nice attention to detail. The cabin, if we can look from here, you have to probably use the other camera because I won't be able to. Oh, I can open the doors maybe from here, or maybe not. Yeah, I cannot move them, so I'm not sure if this is the camera. Yeah, we'll switch to the cockpit camera here in a second to take a look at these details. But look at the textures of the carpet, the seats, all those little details of screws, joints. Everything is high quality and high resolution, I would say. All right, so that's the exterior model. I don't want to spend too much time here because we have a lot to cover. But even the engine cowlings, oil pans, the wheel chocks, they are nicely done. Except, as I said, the wheel has a weird shine to it, and it doesn't look realistic, in my personal opinion. But aside from just that, everything else is looking great, and it's a pleasing model to look at. Sorry, I keep pressing the wrong button on the camera. But yeah, this is the exterior model, and we will jump inside and take a look at the cabin and move into the cockpit area. All right, we are ready to enter the cabin, and we'll use the interior camera, and this is harder to control when it comes to camera movement, but I'll try to do my best. When you enter the cabin, you see interesting things, that this light switch, this works. The batteries are not on, but all the lights in the cabin does work, so that you can turn them on individually if you want to, which we will look later on. I need to change the time of the day to make it a little bit dark. This has a lavatory or restroom at the back. I'm trying to open the door as close as possible so that we can pass through. Look at that. Like, there's even a modeled lavatory in this aircraft, and there's a soap dispenser that dispenses soap if you press on it. If you want to wash your hands before entering or sitting on your seat. These details, I love this small things that makes it very unique in my opinion. The flight attendant seat can be folded or brought down. The camera movements are, or the movement, I'm still getting used to it with this different controls. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. But yeah, so we were here at the flight attendant seat. We make our way into the cabin, and you see all the individual light switches are clickable and they operate, even the ventilation. And I'll show this here in a second. The ashtrays, so smoking in the airplanes, was a thing back in 1930s. They do work. This emergency exit, you can open it and remove it, and that opens. Or you can put it back if you want to, and close it back up. So it's nice to see these small touches for the escape hatch is done. Let me get closer, and I'm not sure if I will be able to show this to you. So this ventilation control here, I'm gonna try to show it to you. So yeah, if it's this one or the one in the cockpit. So when you open, it also opens the vent outside. Maybe that's the cockpit one. I'm not so sure about this one, but we'll take a look at this. But look at the seats. Look at how much detail there is. And each light can be turned on individually. And the interior lighting can be also controlled through the cockpit. Are you hearing this? The clock ticking? That is literally the clock in the cockpit that's ticking. It's this much attention to detail was put into this aircraft. Also, the New York Times newspaper for passengers to read, and some magazines over here. No smoking and fasten seatbelt signs. The cockpit door can be also closed and opened. And that leads us to the cockpit and to the pilot's seat. So let's make our way in there and take our seat, and we'll take a look at the other stuff. All right, beautiful cockpit, nicely done textures, clear and crisp, easy to read even from a distance, and all the textures are of high quality. And map light, this turns on that red light, and the fuse box, let me just go closer. So if I try to move this, it's not gonna open because it's locked. If I unlock this, then I am able to open the fuse box. And all these fuses, they are simulated. So if you overload the electrical systems, you have a chance to burn a fuse, and don't worry, we have a lot of spares here, which we can replace these fuses with the spares we have here. How nice is this? This is literally an aircraft that you virtually own and maintain. It's not something that you will see in pristine shape every time you load into the simulator. This much detail and this kind of simulation is what I'd like to see in an aircraft, so that it feels you own this and you have to maintain. The other thing is this aircraft also saves its state. So if you leave the windows open, the next time you load it, the windows will be exactly where you left them. Same is true for the switches and knobs, which I accidentally turned on. So all the switches and knobs, if you leave them on, like this one for our example, the cabin light switch, I left it on, so it will come at the last state and it will load it where you left it. So the state saving is great. So which means when you park this aircraft, you have to properly shut it down. If you don't want to come to a cockpit with a couple switches turned on and looking like someone played in the cockpit. Another fuse box here for the radio fuses, and these are also replaceable. There is a fuse here, a spare fuse here, and there are 4 fuses that are simulated and can burn if you overload the radios and the electrical system. The other thing, I haven't seen anyone showing in the review videos. You see when I hover over to the gauges, the icon turns to a hand, which means these are clickable. So if I tap, it mimics the tapping of a steam gauge, where you can move the gauge a little bit when you click, you know what I'm talking about, like, clicking the gauge to make sure it's displaying the right information. Each and every gauge has this function, and it moves slightly when you click them. Manifold pressure. Without engines running, it's displaying the barometric pressure of the airfield you are in. Oil temperature is displaying the temperature of the air, the temperature, like, we are roughly at 50 Fahrenheit, and the oil temperature is at 50 Fahrenheit, which is affected by the weather conditions around you. So if the weather was 20 degrees Fahrenheit, oil temperature would read 20 degrees, which makes sense because your engines are not running and they are at the environment temperature. A lot of nice touches like this. Very nicely done cockpit, very nicely done yokes and pedals. Switches, prop feathering system works beautifully, and believe me or not, this aircraft has a working fire extinguisher, so your engines might catch fire if you are not careful and not watching your engine gauges closely. You might fail an engine and it might catch fire, and you can use the fire extinguisher to put the fire out when you are flying. It's interesting to hear this clock ticking still. I hope you guys can hear this. Let me stop talking a little bit and listen to this clock. Yeah, that much detail went into this aircraft. Yeah, I think this is the texturing. All the radio system. This is a very unique radio system, which Microsoft Flight Simulator doesn't have native support for radio range navigation. Back in the 30s, there were no VORs, there were no NDBs, and this was what pilots used to find their waypoints and travel from A to B. And this entire radio navigation system is simulated and brought to Microsoft Flight Simulator with this aircraft. It also comes with a file that you can import to little navmap that shows the locations of these radio stations and their bearing and their frequencies, which you will need if you want to do radio navigation, or radio range navigation rather. This is a whole video on its own, so I'm not going to cover this during this review video, but entire radio beacons are modeled and brought into Microsoft Flight Simulator with the add-on. You can tune and listen, and interestingly enough, you can also tune to the radio stations to listen some vintage music if you want to. We'll try to simulate that during this review. Next thing is the Clipboard, which is literally your EFP back in 1930s. So this has a lot of good information, and we'll go through this, and then after this we will start the engines and take a look at how you do that. This is the contents page, and the next page gives you some numbers about performance and limitations, general characteristics, manifold pressure, and RPM for takeoff, and you shouldn't be at max manifold pressure more than 5 minutes. You might fail the engines. Climb setting, cruise setting, and fuel consumption for different power settings. Single engine procedure if you lose an engine. It's good to have here as a reminder. And general information. Best glide rate. Loading 2 pounds in nose for every 1 pound in rear for CG. And some emergency procedures are here. Next page is your weight and balances page, where you can load passengers and luggage. And to load passengers, you just click to the seats and it will place a passenger figure. They are not 3D models, so they don't appear in the cabin, but they appear here. Also, all these states are saved in terms of how much oil you have in the engines, how much fuel you have in your tanks, these are all saved. You can load rear baggage, and if you remember the first page, for 100 kilograms we load to the back. We have to, let's go back and take a look at that again. Right here, 2 pounds in nose for every 1 pound in rear. So that means for 100 kilograms at the back, I need 200 kilograms at the nose to keep the CG. All right, and when I do this, it's not loading automatically. So we have a couple ground crew with us that will help us load the aircraft and do certain things. And I'm gonna show it because it's interesting that when you do these selections and go outside, you see the baggage cart is full of baggage and mail or various items, and you have suitcases back there. When you make those selections, they are brought in here, and when you press the Make It So button, your ramp agent Henrik will start loading the baggage, and you will see the baggage being loaded into the compartment. And if we go to the back, you'll see the same thing. Actually, I might have to switch to the drone camera to show it a little bit closer. If we go here, after he loads the nose, he'll come back to here, so he doesn't do everything at the same time. And you will see these baggages disappearing from here and appearing in the cargo compartment here in a second when the nose is done. So I guess we have to wait a little bit to see it happen. See, done with the nose. It takes time, so we will see. I need to be a little bit more patient, I guess. Come on, Henrik. We are waiting for you to load the aircraft. We're still dealing with the nose, I guess. It's not gonna hurt to check, I guess, to see if he's done. Over there. Oh, he's done, and he closed the nose cargo compartment, so he should be doing this now momentarily, and we can always check, saying, see, boarding the passengers. So he's boarding the passengers first before loading the luggage at the back. He's removing the passenger stairs, so we should see him coming around, and the cabin compartment should be closed now, and the stairs are removed. Sorry, passing through the aircraft is not a good practice, but I just wanted to show this to you very quickly. If we check, yep, you see the baggage appearing in there and disappearing from the baggage cart. This kind of detail, I love to see this. It's unique, and it makes you smile. At least it makes me smile. So he's closing the cargo compartment now. How nice is this? So now our baggage cart is being removed and everything is loaded. Same goes for fueling the aircraft. So if I add fuel to the tanks and press Make It So, he's gonna go outside, and if we take a look here, he's gonna start loading fuel. He's gonna open the fuel door, and he's refueled left wing, and he's gonna do the same for the right wing right there. And right wing has 2 tanks, so he's gonna do one first and then the other one next. Great stuff, guys. This much detail, and all this detail, all this simulation is just for 20 bucks, which is insane if you ask me. So next thing is to put our engine cowlings on. We'll come back to this engine startup page, but this is where your maintenance page is. So we can install the cowlings. They have nice animations, as you see. They are placed now for our left engine, and we can do the right engine too. There you go. You can remove the leather, you can remove the oil pans, which we don't need anymore, so let's remove them too. And you can open the battery compartment and gear fairing. You can install or remove. Simulation settings, you can simulate engine malfunctions and realistic engine start and electrical features, which will require you to replace a fuse if you blow a fuse, which is great. And the next page is the oil system. So this is also interesting to talk about. Based on the temperature and where in the world you are starting your flight, you have to load or put the right oil into the engines. Otherwise, when you take off, you'll have some engine problems if you don't choose wisely. What I'm trying to say with that is, you see the oil grades and the temperature range. So right now we are at 50 Fahrenheit at where we are. So if I select an oil like 20, it's up to 50 Fahrenheit, and above 50 Fahrenheit, it's gonna give us some problems. Which is like the oil will become too thin, and it will create more oil pressure, and eventually that more oil pressure will damage your engines. If I put this one, then it goes from 20 to 95 Fahrenheit, which probably is more suitable for where we are at right now. And as you see, we are showing the used oil grade is SAE20W, and that's this guy here. We are already at the higher range of the temperature range, or higher side of the temperature range, which tells me that this oil might not be a good fit for the weather we are in today. So to change the oil, we'll select oil change and select what kind of oil we want to put, oil change, and then our aircraft mechanic jack will make it happen. Okay, and when you go to the other page, you will see the oil being changed and topped up for our engines. And these engines are burning oil, so you will see the oil gradually being consumed or burnt by the engines as you fly and operate this aircraft. Okay, so he is almost done with that part. And we're opening the right oil filler, topping up the tank. So it's great to see this kind of simulation in an aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I was very impressed with the attention to detail and the level of detail this aircraft has to offer and what's simulated. I think it's important to mention that they have a custom-coded system that they call Prop-O-Tronic, which makes these aircraft systems to talk to each other, such as electrical systems talking with engines, engines talking with hydraulic system, and so on and so forth, so that, you know, the fails are introduced. You can see different things happening because of that custom-coded engine simulation and electrical system simulation. He's almost done with oiling or filling up the oil. And it's great to see, like, you have to wait. You can't do anything before this is done. For some of you, this might be boring, but I'm enjoying every moment of this. And we'll provide power to the aircraft and take a look at a couple things as well here in a second. Alright, our aircraft is ready. All the maintenance is done. Passengers are boarded, luggage is loaded, and we are pretty much ready to provide power and start our engines. So let's get rid of the clipboard for a second and take a look at a couple things. As I said, this aircraft will come at the state that you left it. If you leave the main fuel valve open, it will be open. Let's set our parking brake, and the sounds are super nice to hear. And let's go down and turn on our battery power, which is this red switch here, master battery switch. Pressing it in will provide power to the aircraft. And if I go to the co-pilot side and remove the yoke so that we can see a little bit better, you'll see an amp meter here showing how many amps are drawn from the battery. So if I turn the nail lights on, you'll see the amp meter showing that the battery is draining. If I turn on the compass light, it will drain more and more and more. So you need to be very careful what you turn on during pre-flight, because you might end up draining your battery completely even before starting your engines. And the other thing I want to show is I'm gonna change the time of the day and show you an interesting thing that I have not seen in any other video. So look at the gauges. I want you to remember the watches of 1980s where you have a self-illuminated hands. I hope most of you will remember that, and that will probably reveal my age if you know what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna make it dark, like nighttime, and let's go to dark. There are not too many lights around, so if I move my camera, you see how the gauges are glowing without any power. Like the aircraft is powered on, but if I turn the master battery off, these gauges will still glow. So this is a self-illuminated, or those clock hands. I don't know the exact term to use here in English language, but I believe these are radiofluorescent material that's painted on the hands and the gauges that makes them glow. And what this does is they soak the light during day, and they emit the light during night. So you will see these illumination gradually decreasing if you spend too much time in the cockpit, cold and dark. These gauges will dim as you stay in the cockpit. How nice is this? Like, look at this detail. And I have checked the variables that Sim is running with a tool that I use to map my controllers outside of Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's sending a lot of data variables just to simulate these gauges and their illumination. This is crazy, guys. This much detail put into this aircraft. Hats off, and kudos to developer Wing42 and Otmar for paying this much attention to detail. This is crazy. So while we are here and dark, we can turn the lights on and take a look at the lighting. We are not going to spend too much time because we might drain the batteries, and I can turn that map light on too. And we can jump outside. Oh, master battery is not turned on. Let me turn the battery switch on, and you see everything is now nicely illuminated. There's a dome light, there's that red lighting, and you can even see the cabin lights. And remember the reading lights that I was talking about? You can turn them on individually by operating the knobs, and this will also impact the amps drawn from the battery. So your ammeter will just show that you are draining your battery super fast. This is very cool to see. Let me turn off all these switches because we don't want to drain the battery too much, and everything goes back to dark. Even with that, yeah, these are not operated if you don't have this switch turned on for the cabin lights. Cordless lights is outside. They are these lights over here, I believe these. We can double check, but I think that's they are. Yep. So they are sort of navigation lights, but these are for mostly I believe the ground crew, if I read correctly and if my memory is serving me well. But the night lighting of this aircraft is also nicely done. Alright, I can't just get away from this. I keep looking at these gauges and how they glow and how beautiful the cockpit looks in the night. So let's go back to daytime, guys, and we'll continue with the engine start procedure of this aircraft. Alright friends, we are ready to start our engines. Boeing 247D comes with two Pratt & Whitney Wasp engines. These are radial engines. They require a lot of love to make sure they are running properly. And I have failed engines a couple times when I was doing some test flights with this aircraft. So you need to pay attention to your engine gauges all the time and make sure you are watching your engine parameters in terms of manifold pressure, oil temperature, oil pressure, and fuel flow and RPM. So it's very important to keep an eye on these gauges when you are flying in this aircraft. So let me hide the yoke and talk about what we need to do to start this aircraft. So first thing, we'll turn on the main fuel valve to on. Okay. And engine distributor dial to both. And the tank selector, we will start with the left tank. That's our biggest tank. And you have to change the tanks. And it displays how many gallons each tank has. Left has 136. Right main has 70. And aux tank has 66 gallons. So 136 gallons on both sides. And to avoid fuel imbalance, you have to switch tanks as you fly every once in a while to use fuel from the other tank to keep it balanced. How much fuel we have, you can check with these handles, and these are like super interesting to see. If you pull them a couple times, it will move the fuel gauge to display how much fuel you have. So this is the main right tank. This switch controls and displays the aux tank when you switch it. So we have equal amount of fuel roughly in both tanks, and this will display the left tank fuel quantity. We have 90 gallons, almost 90 gallons on our left tank, and we have what, 50-ish, 50, 52, 53 on the aux tank, and another 50, I believe, or close to 55 this time on the right main tank. So that's how you see your fuel. Manifold pressure, you need to operate this switch to see right and left engine manifold pressure for this gauge to display the manifold pressure for the respective engine. And the rest is, the cylinder head temperature. This dial goes between different cylinders and displays the head cylinder temperature for different cylinders. And left-hand engine 14C00. I don't know. I haven't read this part in the manual, but it displays the cylinder temperatures of the radial engines on both wings. Altimeter, airspeed indicator, turn coordinator, climb rate or vertical speed indicator, directional gyro, attitude indicator, your classic vintage clock, oil temp, oil pressure for both engines, and fuel flow, or fuel pressure, I'm sorry, and then the RPM for both engines are displayed here, and your M meter is here on this side at the co-pilot. De-icing, when you turn this on, you'll see the de-icing booths infilate, which is something that I have never seen in another aircraft. Elevator trim is here. This is your switches for your radio equipment and avionics, and then your various light switches here. Prop feathering is here. Radio volume control to control the radio here, and we'll talk about this radio and how to tune. And your standby compass is here. So how to start the engines? Main fuel valve is on. Tank selectors are selected. We'll go full mixture. Prop levers to full forward. And this has two different ways of starting the engines. If I bring up the clipboard, you can do this from here, and our engineer will wind up the flywheel and you mesh it to start the engine. Or you can literally go outside and attach the crank, wind up the engine, or flywheel rather, and then press the clutch to start the engine. So it goes both ways. But we will do it from here, for maybe one of the engines and try the other one from outside to see the difference between two. To start the engine, first we need to prime the engines. We'll start with the left one, and to prime you click and hold the primer and you move your mouse forward and back to prime the engine a couple times. While it's primed, we also need to use the wobble pump to build some fuel pressure. You look at the gauges, it needs to be about 5 inches for a proper engine start. So you keep wobbling the pump, because when you let it go, it will start dropping. So you wobble the pump about 5 inches, bring the clipboard and tell your ramp agent to wind up the flywheel. He will attach the crank and you will see the engine winding. There we go. And while he's doing this, we'll turn the magnetos to on for left and right, and master ignition to on as well, and we'll keep using the wobble pump to keep the fuel pressure about 5 inches. And when you are feeling ready for it, you mesh the flywheel, and first try she comes to life. So when you start, you increase the RPM to engines to idle around 1800 to 1000 RPM, and let them warm, and you watch the oil temperature and oil pressure while you are sitting at idle throttle. Beautiful sounds, and you can see the smoke coming out of the engine too, which is something I haven't seen in any other aircraft in Microsoft Flight Sim. Very loud engines, by the way. I hope this is not too loud for you when you are watching this video. The next engine, we will do the same, but we'll try to do this from outside. So to move to the outside view, Control 7 will take you to the right engine, Control 6 will take you to the left engine to start the engines. Okay, so we will use this, and the ladder is already here. Okay, let's go back into the cockpit, bring our clipboard, and this time, instead of wind up flywheel, we're gonna ask him to attach the starter crank, and that will be the only thing he will do for us. We'll switch the selector to the right engine and prime the right engine 3-4 times based on the temperature. I think it should be fine. We'll crack open the throttle, and we'll use the wobble pump to build some fuel pressure in the right engine. We need enough fuel pressure because we will be outside and not see this gauge, so I will build some more. Go to outside, start moving the crank. Alright, so we will move the crank like such, and when we are happy, we'll go and press the clutch. And yeah, this is hard to do from outside, guys, and I need to check my fuel pressure as it drops. So this is the harder way to do this. I'm trying to do this to show you, but I'm not sure if we are going to be able to start the engine. We might end up doing it from the clipboard. Alright, fuel pressure is there. We'll quickly wind the crank, and when we are happy, this engine doesn't generate that sound. I'm pretty sure the developer will fix this, but yeah, this is how you start, which we are not able to do. Yep, we will do this from inside. Just wanted to show you how, but it's hard to do. So we will wind up the flywheel by using our engineer, and we'll use the wobble pump to build some fuel pressure. I hope we don't have to prime it again. Maybe we have to. We'll check that one. And mesh the flywheel, and the engine comes to life. and you see smoke coming out of both engines. Nice radial engine sounds. And why we have this door open, I'm not sure. We have to check this to see what that door is. Oh, that's the battery compartment, so let's close this. Yep, that's the battery compartment. And we have a window open on this side, that's why it's so loud. Let's close the window. And there you have it, guys. Engines are running, the aircraft is started, and we can go and, you know, turn on some lights. Engine instruments, nav instruments, courtesy lights, cabin lights, and compass light and such. And if I leave this aircraft in this position, when I come back, all these switches will be turned on. It's gonna save its state. We can check the temperatures now for different cylinders to see if they are warm enough. I'm not sure if all of them are simulated yet, maybe in a future update, but I see some temperatures rising. Oil pressure, oil temperature are looking okay, so that means we are ready to taxi. To do that, we need to ask our ramp agent to remove the chocks, and from here we are pretty much ready to roll. This aircraft doesn't have any control of the tail wheel, so your rudder pedals will not turn it, but it has differential braking to turn aircraft left or right. We will not taxi in this video, it's already a long one. Maybe we will do a full flight with this aircraft and take a look at the radio range navigation too. So let me know in the comments if you are interested to look into takeoff procedure, the climb rate, how you manage the engines, what power setting you use to climb, takeoff, cruise, and how you use the radio navigation. I will happily record a tutorial about that. But for today, this is going to be it, where we are going to end this video. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please consider giving a like, and if you stumbled upon this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps a lot, and it makes this video to reach other flight simmers if they are interested in learning this aircraft. Thanks for being here with me today, and I hope you enjoyed every moment of this video, and maybe you want to grab this aircraft for yourself. I think this is a very nicely done aircraft at a very reasonable price. For $20, how much simulated in this aircraft, I honestly say this is a steal, and you should take advantage of this. That's my personal opinion. Again, thanks for watching the video, and I will be seeing you in the next one.